guys, my name is Sarah Schauer, and this is Schauer Thoughts, a podcast for left and right brainers, middle brainers, anyone with a brainstem, pons, medulla, anyone, with anyone with any lobes of any type. So today's episode is going to be a bit of a smattering of everything. I am outlining an episode on why we can feel, quote unquote, this strap when sapphics use them. And so some of you who are like, the strap, like feel the strap, like firearm? No. Well, you can feel it, I assume, like in your waistband, but there's something that's this pressure, and just a general sense of awareness. But no, it's a different phenomena. And so while I was outlining that, these are just some separate things I was looking into. Because interestingly, people who feel the sensation of the strap, oftentimes there's like several components to it, but are it seems like they're very open to hypnotic suggestion. And so like that's not to say like, oh, you're being hypnotized. I mean, it's just getting into a sort of way of perceiving and suggestibility and things that you'd like to do or adapt, right? And so I kind of went through and I just kind of wanted to research like hypnotism and like what's the neuroscience behind that. It's actually pretty interesting. And then I also separately was thinking about like what it means to be cringe. Now, cringe and hypnosis and feeling all this stuff they're not related. I just was looking into cringe and hypnosis. And that's what we're going to be talking about. What is cringe? What is hypnosis? And then that's going to be, I guess, a primer for feeling the strap, feeling the sensation. Speaking of, this is going to be a bit more of a dirty episode. Well, I guess kind of how I'm opening it with, I told Rebecca this. I will be... Now, trigger warning for my more people who don't really talk about sex much. I will be talking about sex in a very lesbian way, and I love that. Now, how to go about saying this? I am pretty verse, but more bottomish, and so you guys are like, oh my god, this is really a lot. But the thing is I'm verse but bottomish because I have carpal tunnel, and so like my hand gets like in this like really weird, it like hurts after a while, and so like hand is like but I'll do like, and I love doing everything else, you know what I mean? And so you guys are like, oh my god, but I understand. So there's this butch who lives a bit of a ways away. That is really cute, and I'm sorry, guys. This is again TMI. On my period, and I'm not in the mood to, bottom. Okay, and the thing is you guys are like, why are you so squeamish about this? Well, it's because I know a lot of you do follow me for sciencey stuff, but I need to remind everyone I do have a comedy background, and I'm usually very crass in real life. So I do want to talk about that, and I am gay, and it's also a Friday, and so if you're deeply uncomfortable about this topic, please feel free to skip a few minutes ahead. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my lore. I do have carpal tunnel, and the gayest thing I've ever done, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Some of you may be aware of this. Someone sat on my face so hard, they broke my nose. And so that is the most sapphic thing ever for me personally, followed closely by when I went to a perfume making class, and the teacher told me to choose a bunch of scents that I liked, and so I chose all these kind of pheromone-ish scents, and then there was one that was like a flower, and so I combined the scents, and she was like, all right, so this one is definitely going to take more time to bloom, so I suggest spraying it on your chest or your neck, and so it heats up and it blooms. And so a couple hours later I was sitting in my living room, and I was like, oh my god, holy crap. And it I was like, is that me? Because the smell was so downstairs-ish. I was like, oh my god, do I have did I hear you laughing? Anyway, yeah, so turns out I had accidentally perfectly recreated the smell of used panties. All of my scents were animalic and musky, and then the flower was called erotic flower, and so after a couple hours they bloomed into almost like a perfect recreation of used panties. And now here's the thing. I could be a millionaire off of that. The scent that I have at home, and I do have the formula, I do feel kind of like, Mr. Krabs with the secret Krabby Patty formula, like plankton is going to break in, but it's just like how to make the smell of used panties. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the, so I'm going to be going and traveling to top this butch, and I'm not, I mean, I guess I am nervous, but the thing is I'm more, I'm confident in ability. And they do know about my hand. But the thing is when someone's really good at something and you're like, like I'm just scared that they're gonna, well, I mean, then I know you guys are like listening to this, like, holy shit, Sarah, spit it out. Or some of you are like, you know what? She's just going to be excited to be there. You know what? She's going to be like, just happy that, you're on top of her and you guys don't have any clothes on and, it's going to be really hot. And yeah, no, it will be. But the thing is I think I, as a performer, I do want to put on a good show. And so you're like, that's not, and it is, I know, but also still it sometimes is, I just want to be good enough. And I know that people are listening to this, like driving to work or someone's sitting next to their boyfriend and then they're like, oh my God. Okay. So what I'm trying to say, guys, this weekend I will be topping a butch for the entire weekend. And I think what I'm going to do is, when you're not super confident in abilities, so you just kind of defer to props. I think I'm going to bring a lot of supplies. You know what I mean? A lot of leather stuff, maybe some riding crop. Like, some gags and that sort of thing. I'm sorry if this is TMI, but it's like, you got to make do. Country girls make do. No, but carpal tunneled, scared, squeamish. I'm not scared. I just don't want to disappoint someone. And you're like, that's neither here. I understand. You know what, guys? I didn't even talk. The thing is I'm like talking about this out loud. And then I know that I can like already hear everyone's voices and like comments. Like there's going to be a bunch of you who are like, no, I totally understand what you're saying. Like and then there's going to be some of you who are like, that's not what it's about, man. And then there's going to be some of you who are like, yeah, get into it. And so I'm trying to appease all of you. And you know what? It is about me. But those are my dirty thoughts before we enter the shower. And it's good, to get dirty before you go in the shower. Sorry for everyone who follows me for neuroscience and just general research stuff. I do need you to understand I contain multitudes. And a bunch of, anyway, okay, so we're going to talk about what it means to be cringe. You may be like, this is cringe, Sarah. It's not cringe. I'm telling you my honest to God truth. You know what? Maybe I should. I want you. I don't need you guys to respect me. I think that I'm just like, yeah. I'm sorry, Rebecca. Is this convoluted? Is this like a whole bunch of nothing that makes sense?
No, I mean, I think it's part of the warm up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay, and it's so good that you, the other lesbian, is in a separate room, so I can't see your facial reactions. Like if I could see your face right now when I'm being like, yes, I'm gonna top, and you're gonna be like, okay, you know what I mean?
Meanwhile, I'm in here like, hell yeah, get your bag, girl.
Well, I don't know what the general consensus is. Are people gonna be supportive? Are they gonna be like, that's TMI? Anyhow,
I think the only way to find out is to try it.
Yeah. Try. You got to
yap about it, and then see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you guys next week how it goes, and I'll be like, I did great. They really liked it. They seem to. It's just like, I mean, I'm decent at soccer, but like they're really good at soccer, and I mean, yeah, I can. But if you shoot on me, I'm not gonna. So me shooting on you, you know what I want. God, I feel like I'm, just like intramural team going up against someone who's like D1 in college, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, and I'm all alone on the field. Anyway, but I'm excited. I'm incredibly attracted to them. I want them to like it. Sarah, they will like it. Thank you, guys. All right, so what it means to be cringe. So this is when we're actually getting into the shower and the neuroscience of the shower. So cringe, just so you guys know, is have an inward feeling of acute embarrassment or awkwardness. It's similar to it is wincing, squirming, blushing, or flushing. I guess I am cringing. This is acute embarrassment. Well, I guess I think why this is not. I guess it may be cringe for you guys to listen to this. I don't know if it's because, I'm violating a social norm, the social norm being lesbian norm, where I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not. Every sapphic worries about this type of thing. So this is like pretty on par. Maybe it's cringe for straight people or people who are not super sexual. The thing is, and I don't know if this is TMI. I have a past. Now, I used to be what I guess some would refer to as incredibly loose. Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. I want you to respect me. So I'm not like, did you laugh?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I thought I heard a,
It was me.
okay. So I'm not, bad, uncomfortable, in the bedroom. I think it's just when someone's really good at something and you're like, oh, damn, I'm good, but I don't know if I'm that good. And I have a kind of hand problem. And you know what? Please be careful around my face, that sort of thing. But yeah, so I guess this is cringe for a lot of people. You may be wincing, squirming, blushing, or flushing. The toilet, if you're on the, you know what? I'm going to keep moving. So I wanted to get into the neuroscience behind embarrassment. Like, that's cringe. Because the thing is cringe is related to embarrassment. We're going to talk about like the related emotions of it. This is by Gray Matters, the undergraduate neuroscience journal. It was published in 2021, so it's fairly recent. Have you ever been on the brink of sleep when you get hit with a memory of something embarrassing that you did in the past? Maybe even just remembering the moment makes you cringe and fully wake up. Or maybe you try to forget it ever happened. Like other emotional experiences, embarrassment is deeply personal and yet also deeply understood by others. Nearly everyone has an embarrassing story they can share, but the very nature of embarrassment is to cause avoidance, discomfort, and distress. This is why many people will go to great lengths to try to avoid embarrassing themselves. Advancements in neuroscience over the past 30 years have given scientists new ways to understand how this powerful, uncomfortable, and complex emotion operates in our brains and how it may be involved in several neurological disorders. Trying to think. Well, maybe I guess the thing I opened with was pretty embarrassing. I think it was only embarrassing because I didn't speak confidently about it. And you're going to be like, no, it's embarrassing in general. And I'll be like, it's not embarrassing, guys. The thing is embarrassment is like acute. I don't feel embarrassed because maybe you guys aren't here to laugh. Maybe if you guys were all physically here and giving me, and I was looking at you in various states of gay and, respectability, then maybe I'd be like, oh, crap. I should have done that. But you guys aren't here, so I don't know how embarrassed I should be. So what is embarrassment? One of the first challenges faced by scientists who study emotions is often defining the emotion itself. And I freaking love emotions, so let's do it. Let's do it. 1. While it may be easy to conjure up memories of past embarrassing events, it is much more challenging to come up with a strict definition for embarrassment that encompasses everyone's experience of the emotion. Okay. Because of this, older research methods that relied only on self-reporting embarrassment gave little insight into the potential neural mechanisms behind this complicated emotion. Yeah, because embarrassment is a social emotion. So if you're self-reporting, right, you're supposed to like gauge like only your reaction when, it involves others. So it's going to be like, well, let's see, what are the other, anyway. Despite this difficulty in pinning down an exact definition, embarrassment has been broadly classified as one of the self-conscious emotions alongside feelings like pride, guilt, and shame. 2. Defining the boundaries between these emotions has been a topic of ongoing debate between scientists in the field for many years. Some researchers feel that embarrassment is simply a less intense form of shame, while others feel that embarrassment should be considered its own distinct emotion. And yes, embarrassment should be a separate emotion because the base emotions are different. Yes, embarrassment and shame. Oh, I guess shame would be more humiliation and ashamed, which would be under the remorse category. So let's talk about why this is, okay. You guys are going to ask me where I got this source from, and I need you to understand that this is a lot of information. But if you want to get into this, How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett, Between Us, How Cultures Create Emotions by Batja Mesquita. That is going to be your primer for what I'm about to say. Okay. So shame is under the remorse family of emotions. That includes remorseful, ashamed, and humiliated. However, their base emotions for the remorse family are sadness plus fear. Sadness appearing first, fear appearing second. And the order does matter because if it's fear and sadness, you enter worry territory, and which is more helplessness. This is like hopelessness. Yes. Okay. So embarrassment's base emotions are surprise and sadness. So humiliation or ashamed, right, is sadness plus fear. And so embarrassment is surprise plus sadness. So they both do share sadness, but what appears first with embarrassment is surprise, shock. Oh my God. Pause. Speaking of which, sober people, I had the absolute biggest freak out this week. I'm drinking a Celsius right now, and High Noon recently mislabeled some High Noons, which is like their vodka seltzer, and they put it in Celsius cans, right? And so I think it was like one of the Arctic something cans. And so I had just finished drinking a Celsius and I saw that article. It's like, oh, some Celsiuses contain High Noon. And I like, as someone who's sober for like 2.5 years, I was seconds away from like making myself throw up in the living room. I like read that and I was like, ooh! And I didn't really, sorry. Oh my God, all my people afraid of vomiting. I'm so sorry. Trigger warning. It's after the fact. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I was like, I can't relapse on accident. I can't do that. And so like, I like ran to the kitchen and I had like so many random Celsiuses and I like ripped through them and I was like, where is this high? And so they were like, oh, it's only this one single thing, this one can. And I was like, relapsing on accident is like my biggest fear. You know what I mean? I'll go to a bar and I'll order a drink, and if the bartender doesn't make it in front of me, and it's usually like something like with juice and something else, and if they don't make it in front of me, I have one of my friends like taste it, and I'm like, does this have alcohol in it? Meanwhile, my friend's wasted. They probably can't gauge if it does or not. But yeah, so that happened. Sorry, I took a chug of Celsius and I had to let you guys know that. Yeah, so embarrassment's base emotions are surprise and sadness. Ashamed and humiliation is sadness plus fear. So surprise is going to be the base emotion that makes embarrassment acute because surprise is the shortest emotion, and it has a propensity to strike, right? Also the lack of fear element, shock and sadness. So there's a lack of fear, there's shock and sadness, which will make the reaction more of a shock, right? And a public display. And there's a unconcealed immediacy sort of to it. You may withdraw eventually, but your fear is the thing that's really going to make you like hide immediately. Sadness is just like, I fell. And the thing is when it comes to, flashbacks of, embarrassing things you've done in the past, that is the role of shock and embarrassment, right? You're having a sense memory. It's coming to you and, moments like in the future, right? Randomly, as if it's like a shock, right? A lightning bolt of memory. And then you're experiencing that sadness again. Like, oh God, you're cringing. Okay. That's embarrassment. You are having flashbacks because that is the emotional components of it. Okay. So for ashamed and humiliated, there's sadness appearing first, and it's the longest emotion by a mile. Like surprise, shortest, sadness will always be the longest. So when it comes to humiliation, there's going to be a very strong undercurrent, right? It's going to pull you under, right? It's going to lock you into place and pull you under. And it's a emotional sucking in, a turning in on oneself. It is very self-conscious, and it's very prolonged as opposed to embarrassment, which is like, I fell, I fell. Yes. So those who believe it is a separate emotion argue that the actual experience of embarrassment is distinctly shorter lived. Yes, it is, and is often more situation specific or accidental than shame. Yes, shocking, right? It's something that was randomly happened. Like, oh, you did this, you fell, it's not like so much like a huge moral issue with you. There was literally a uneven pavement and you fell. Yeah. Embarrassing situations are often associated with feelings of awkwardness and can sometimes even be considered humorous, whereas shameful experiences are often distinctly non-humorous and associated with a sense of deep regret and self-loathing. Yes, so embarrassing situations are often associated with feelings of awkwardness and sometimes even be considered humorous. So the thing is what humor is, like comedy is incongruency. Like making a joke is noting an incongruency, right? Like these two things are usually dissimilar, but I'm going to compare them, and it's going to make like it's remedying something that was previously incongruent or a violation, right? Like it's like misdirection. It's like redirecting a violation or something that's incongruent in a way that like relieves. And so, yeah, with embarrassment, you can remedy it by like, making fun of yourself. So like if someone trips, you just like lay on the floor and you kind of drag out the bit, where you just like lay like Peter Griffin, and it's like, all right, because then now you're like, I'm the master of my own fate, right? You laugh with me, not at me. Shame is something really, really hard to make everyone laugh about. You know what I mean? It is a incongruency that is not easily remedied. There's a violation that's not easily remedied. Let's think about something embarrassing for me and then shameful for me. Embarrassing for me is I'm going to be... Oh, God damn it. What's something? You know what? I'll just talk about something shameful. You're like, wouldn't that be harder? But getting sober, like reviewing all the stuff I did while I was drunk and being drunk for so long, deeply shameful. Yeah, I guess I just wasted my life away. But yeah, here's something embarrassing that I did while I was drunk. I tell this story in my stand-up. So one time I was drinking all day because, that's what you do when you're drunk. And I woke up in the middle of the night to buy a pack of cigarettes. And I walked across the street to buy some cigarettes. And I opened them. I ripped out the paper and I put them on the top of my bag, right? My bag was open. I put all the paper on the top of my bag, smoking a cigarette, walking back to my apartment at the time. And when I'm get close to my apartment, I noticed there's a dude standing out front and he is like blocking the entrance. Well, he's like 8 feet away and he's talking to himself and he's gesturing with a gun, right? Like he has a gun in his hand and he's like talking to himself and he's gesturing with it. And so embarrassingly, I was like, you know what? Because, okay, I need you to understand. I'm drunk, right? It's also the middle of the night. I just woke up and I'm disoriented and there's also a dude with a gun, right? Drunk, disoriented, oh crap. And so in my mind, I thought that this made sense. I was like, you know what everyone likes when they're drunk? Likes when they're upset? A cigarette. So I pull out a cigarette from the pack I just bought and I hand it to him, right? And he looks at me and he looks at the cigarette and he like kind of puts his hand out and like kind of like gestures me to put it down, and he kind of like shakes his head a little bit, doesn't say anything to me, and I'm like, you know what, that's so valid, he doesn't want one. But the thing is I was still smoking my cigarette and I was scared for my fucking life, and so instead of throwing it out like I would have responsibly done, which I always do, right, I put it in my backpack, right, because my brain short circuits, man with a gun, also drunk, right? Everyone and their mom is going to be in the comments like, you stupid fucking idiot. Get your shots in now. I'm fine now. Anyway, so I put the cigarette in my backpack, right? And the paper from the cigarettes, right, like is on top and it just immediately bursts into flames. And the thing is I slowly put my backpack on because again, I'm in somewhat of a freeze state. So I put my backpack on and it's on fire. And I'm like, And I walk by this dude and he is just looking at me as a fire is in my backpack. I just put a lit cigarette in my backpack and it's on fire and I put it on my back. And then I get inside the building. I like rip it open. I like tear everything out. That was embarrassing. Now, what I do put this in my stand-up because that's funny as fuck. It's but I posted this on TikTok like when it happened like years ago, and the main comment was, "That's what you get for littering," and I was like, I didn't even fucking litter. I didn't even litter. Also, they had Bernie 2020 or something in their bio, and I was like, you should take that shit out. You think that I should feel threatened with a gun because I almost littered? You run that policy by Bernie Sanders and tell me if he agrees with you. Like, you're kidding. Someone deserves to feel threatened with a gun just because they may or may not have littered. Run that by Bernie. Take that shit out of your bio. You're not a liberal. Like, give it up. Anyway, sorry, I had to say that because that was so fucking annoying. But yeah. So that was embarrassing, and I did check the Citizen app that night, and there was no gun violence in Los Angeles at all. So I think that man saw me, thought, damn, some people really, really have a lot going on. Maybe I'm gonna talk it out with Jeff. We're gonna discuss, what he owes me for the electric bill or whatever the issues seem to have been. And we're just going to talk this out because I can't end up like her. So that was embarrassing. Now, did I have to... God, that was embarrassing. And then I told it again. I'm going to have acute visions of this. Anyway, just know that I did not litter. I didn't litter. Thank you guys for remembering that. I did not litter. So that was embarrassing. Now, that's just a singular... And the thing is I can make that funny. If I were to go on stage, though, and be like, I actually can't tell you the amount of money I spent on alcohol. It's not funny. It's humiliating. There's no way to make people laugh about that on stage. Wasted so much money, so much time. Permanent medical issues. Yeah, you get it. You're like, damn, we would have gotten it if you just kept reading. And I was like, I'm sorry, you have to give real life experiences. I hope you guys understand. Yeah. So, humorous. Embarrassment has the opportunity for humor. Shame is really going to be lifting with your knees. Okay. Yeah. So what all of these self-conscious emotions share, though, is an emphasis on the relationship between the person experiencing the emotion and their sense of self or social standing. Scientists believe that the ability to critically evaluate oneself as a separate entity gave early humans a survival advantage that has carried across evolutionary time until now, currently manifesting as the array of self-conscious emotions. Yes, so sense of self or social standing. Humans are social creatures, and so you're really only self-conscious. I mean, we're all conscious, but you get self-conscious when it's like, you're focused on yourself and there's like lack of connection with others. Yeah. A lot of people, I've said this before, a lot of people think that they're self-aware, but in reality, they're self-conscious because awareness, you understand, how you move throughout a space, like, you're aware of like your how like spreading of like your your legs. I mean, like, how much space you're taking up, whether it be like physical space or like vocal space, right? If you're talking too loud or, that sort of thing. But yeah, most of us are just self-conscious. So the ability to self-evaluate has been demonstrated in children as young as 2 years old. Interestingly, even in toddlers, this self-evaluation often carries moral judgment. For example, instead of merely reporting that they have done something, a child will often express concern about having done something bad or pride about having done something good. In doing this, the child demonstrates their ability to not only evaluate their own actions, but also to assign moral weight to their evaluations based on their current set of social norms. It is worth noting that this set of social norms is likely to change over the course of a person's life, both as they age and become more aware of the norms around them. And if they ever experience a dramatic change in social scenery, like when moving to a different country, the combination of self-evaluation and moral judgment based on these social norms is believed to be at the core of feeling embarrassed. Yes, it is. Okay. So, interestingly, self-evaluation often carries moral weight. And the thing is the most morals, like I've said, are rooted in disgust or empathy, right? And so, disgust is going to repel you away from people. And then empathy is going to draw you closer. It's going to attract you. So, yes, if they've done something bad, they're going to feel more distance from each other, right? And so that's when you get like fear, sadness, right? social creatures. And so being disconnected from others, ostracized, right? You're going to feel sort of like moral disgust. Oh, I did something bad, or I am bad, or if you did something good, you have pride. Oh, I accomplished this, I'm the best of my class. Like everyone did great, but I did better. So yeah, it's interesting because it's like up-down movement, which is like morals, but repulsion and attraction is towards or away. So it's like interesting how they're, accounting for the different motions, even as a child. So yeah, it's worth noting that this set of social norms is likely to change over the course of a person's life. Yes, your context just does change. Your friend groups do change. What was once socially the norm when I was hanging out with straight people is now not the social norm when I hang out with gay people. Yeah. And so then your morals also do change. Like, morals just being like, oh, it's good to get married before you have sex and then, get pregnant and carry baby to term, healthy, I guess. And then, only use your downstairs pussy, vagina. Oh God, sorry. For, giving birth. Anyway, that doesn't really makes much sense morally in the gay community. So yeah, I'm sorry. That was like really strange that I said it like that. I know that I think what's interesting is that like going from like neuroscience and then just snapping back to like how I casually talk, it's like switching between formal English and then like slang. And you guys are getting like whiplash from it. Are you getting whiplash, Rebecca?
No, it's like in a fun way.
Okay, good. Good. All right. I'm keeping you guys on your toes. This is what's making this entire experience salient. The saliency network in your brain like really helps you learn. It helps you, things that are new, novel, surprising, creative, like all these sort like expressive, they kind of make learning better. So I guess me talking about the horrendous things I've done to my body in a funny way is really illuminating. That's what they mean by in this context. Yes, you guys are relating to me. Okay. When people violate a social norm and feel the fear of being negatively evaluated as the result, they are thought to be experiencing embarrassment. Because humans are social beings, scientists originally thought that the fear of being negatively evaluated was only the fear of being negatively evaluated by other people and not oneself. This makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, where an individual might have once needed to be accepted by a larger community in order to have increased access to resources like food and protection. By having a fear response when lacking the community's acceptance, the individual might therefore be inclined to modify their behaviors in order to regain acceptance and, by extension, essential resources. But it has recently been proposed that the modern forms of embarrassment are much more subtle and complex. Yes, so human beings are social creatures. It's interesting that scientists believe it was only negatively evaluated by other people. It's kind of like, well, you are a human being too, so I don't know why you would be excluded. That's interesting. Why they wouldn't assume that you would also have a negative evaluation that like contributes. Are you not also a human being? I don't know. It just reminds me of, a height of COVID when people would walk into Starbucks and they would be the only customer in there, and then they wouldn't have a mask on, and then the person working behind the counter would be like, can you put a mask on? And then the customer would be like, but it's only me in here. And then the person behind the counter is like, I'm a human being too. I do count. Yes, I'm doing some work here, but just because I'm doing work here does not mean that I'm also forfeiting my humanity. So, when you're evaluating, something, you are doing work. So you are the human being that should be. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway. Okay. So yes, this makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Oh yeah. Why I did want to talk about embarrassment and cringe, because the thing is when, a lot of people, when they, express themselves or like they often cringe, I had a episode a couple weeks back about, forgiving yourself or apologizing to yourself. And I had some people DM me like, how do I get over the cringe aspect of apologizing to myself? And I was like, well, so cringe again is, an inward feeling of acute embarrassment or awkwardness. Embarrassment is surprise and sadness. Now the thing is when people like, as a, again, alcoholic, right? I binged a lot of alcohol and then I stopped and now I'm purging all the shame that came with it. And so I had an entire episode dedicated to forgiveness, right? And forgiveness has another term, purgation, right? If you want to strip it of its religious context, it would be release and relief. Relief from release, you know? And so as an alcoholic, you do apologize to a lot of people often. So, and it does feel like a weight coming off. I've delivered an apology to someone who I really needed to, and she forgave me, and it literally transformed my life. I was like, this is a core memory. Yeah. So when you, like, it's a weight off your chest when you, like, you apologize or ask for forgiveness for something. And so the thing is when you cringe, I doubt that you originally cringed as a kid, because it's embarrassment. It's a violation of a social norm. And so that means that, to be cringe is to be free. It's to express your truth, right? Live your truth. And then other people are like, that's different from us. So that's bad. And we're going to mock you for it. But the thing is when you're like apologizing to yourself or you're forgiving yourself and you cringe, or maybe you laugh, you're like, no, I forgive you. I don't think that laughter is yours, right? Because to cringe is like embarrassment. And so you're expressing your truth, right? And it hurts, it hurt. The reason why, like, it's pain, I forgive you for treating me like that. That hurts to say out loud, to acknowledge it, to release it, right? It's like first part of like forgiving yourself. And the thing is why you may feel compelled to laugh is because that might be what your social group that can like socialized you did, right? Your family is your first culture. And so a violation of social norms that will make you cringe. So people taught you instead of validating your truth, they laughed it off, right? You fell, they laughed it off. Or, you were crying at the dinner table because you couldn't do your homework and they, made you feel like embarrassed and humiliated. And so you were taught to suppress. You were binging your sadness, right? And then now when you purge it, right, you have this shudder, right? That's surprise, right, when it's coming out. You know what I mean? So you were taught to laugh at yourself because if you don't, you're going to shudder and it's going to make you like sad and reflective, but that's exactly what it should do, as it's something painful that you've been suppressing for so long, or something painful you experienced, and it's a violation of social norm. The social norm being your family conditioned you to keep it all in and laugh at you, and so now you're just repeating the norm. But if you want to get out of that, if you want to move cultures, so to speak, get out of the original culture or the family that laughed at you when you were in pain, you're going to have to stop laughing, right? That's always the first step. I know that that's like such a hard thing. And, laughter is a good, it's a good pain reliever. But the thing is to process emotions, you do have to feel them and experience them when they come up, right? So, I know that it's scary to throw up, especially like emotions that have been suppressed, but it's also incredibly relieving. And so, yeah, it's scary in the moment and you may be like, ugh, you may feel super tempted to laugh or, but just kind of focus on the sad and the forgiving of yourself to actually move through it. One current theory proposes that there are actual multiple subtypes of embarrassment, all involving violating norms by varying degree of publicity and type of negative evaluation. As an example, imagine that someone is eating at a table with their friends when they laugh and a piece of food falls out of their mouth. Slob! If none of these friends see the incident, there is no way for them to negatively evaluate the individual, and yet the person is still likely to feel embarrassed. This type of embarrassment is thought to result from the individual imagining the negative evaluation that the others would have had if they had seen the event, or from the individual judging themselves negatively for not adhering to the social norm, which is keeping food in your mouth while eating. Distinctions like this have led some researchers to define two separate types of embarrassment, one stemming from negative evaluations that are socially imposed, and the other from negative evaluations that are personally imposed. This dichotomy between personal and social evaluations is important because understanding how others view you and thus negatively evaluate you involves empathy, whereas a straightforward personal judgment of yourself does not. There are different regions of the brain engaged when undergoing these empathetic versus non-empathetic emotional responses. By better defining the possible subtypes of embarrassment, scientists are thus able to better understand which brain regions may be more active during the different experience of this emotion. Understanding embarrassment on a neurological level like this is necessary to fully comprehend the medical conditions that have abnormal social interactions as part of their symptomology, such as social anxiety disorder or the autism spectrum conditions. Woo! Yes. Okay, so yeah, empathy will be involved with social emotions as it is a social emotion. Yeah, empathy's going to be involved. Feeling for others. And the thing is yeah, but self-disgust, that will be both empathetic and not necessarily empathetic. If it's going moral disgust, we're going the empathy route because it's making a generalization about others. However, visceral disgust depends if we're talking about intuition, could go again into morals, but also just straight up visceral disgust, like taking poison. I mean, that's you don't really have to. I mean, you don't really have to be ingesting the poison of others. So yeah, there's different types of levels of empathy involved in embarrassment. But yeah, I was just interested in that because everyone's so obsessed with not being cringe. But the thing is like cringe is just a violation of social norms. And the thing is if you want to, decenter men or decenter gender or decenter whiteness or decenter thinness or decenter alcohol or decenter drugs or decenter patriarchy, you're going to have to violate some social norms. If you want to speak out against injustice, you're going to have to violate some social norms, right? If you want to develop your own personal style that is true genuinely to who you are, you're going to have to violate some social norms, right? Like if you're any type of gay, you violate some social norms. So the thing is trying to avoid cringe when you're undoing how you've been socialized is going to be damn near impossible. Damn near impossible. And if you're really giving it your all to like even just decenter men, you're gonna and you start like, not like listening to dudes or speaking over dudes or you're walking on the sidewalk and you happen to like shoulder check a dude and him and all his friends look at you and they're like kind of laughing. You're gonna have to, to be cringe is to violate some social norms. So there's like different levels of like, are you genuinely doing it for you or maybe are you entering like very strange unusual territory where it's like you're violating someone's human rights as like the violation of social norms, because it's not necessarily cringe to degrade members of the LGBTQ. You're more of an embarrassment, and you should be ashamed. It's like you should be ashamed. So that's a different level, I guess, of cringe. But the cringe I'm talking about is just like, yeah. So you can't avoid it if you'd like to undo. And the thing is, it's also awkwardness, right? You're going to be clunky at first when you decenter gender or decenter men because that's a script, right? And you're following a role in a script. So you're going off script and now you're improvising. And Rebecca over here is on an improv team. And improv is often hit or miss. So when you're first starting to improv, especially when it comes to your personal expression of your life or how you connect with others, you're going off script. You're no longer connecting over, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? Did you vote for, you know what I mean? You're going off script, so it's going to be awkward at first. But the thing is the more you practice being cringe or violating social norms in an intentional way that's like truly for personal expression that does not violate anyone's human rights, then you're going to get awkward. So yeah, what you fear is kind of the solution. So I do apologize for that. And, overcoming fear and sadness, in this world is going to be a lot, but we got to stick together. Oh, dear God, we got to stick together, and we got to stop judging people as harshly, especially for how they're dressing. Let's start with that, and how they're speaking. And just kind of in general, like we should kind of like suspend some judgments, some assumptions. Because the thing is again, a judgment is, that means you've placed yourself above this person, that you know better. And if they're, communicating their own form of personal expression that is totally unique to them, it would be like you going into a gallery and with no credentials, appraising someone's art. I mean, sure, you may know of some artists, you may know the greats, you may know Picasso and all this shit, but like, do you know like contemporary painters? Like, do you know anyone who is like emerging in 2025? Do you know what the scene is like? So for you to like see someone else judge them, it'd be like, me walking into the Louvre in their like, brand new exhibit being like, this is dog shit. I know better than this. Are you sure? Why are you placing yourself above them? But yeah, they're the ones who like put themselves out there. So I was thinking about Cringe, and then I was thinking about hypnosis. What was interesting and why I originally mentioned hypnosis is that I was reading about processing of pain in the brain. And this is like kind of separate because I was looking into how you can feel the strap. And it's not Cringe, or it has nothing to do with pain inherently, I guess. But yeah, so I was looking at processing of pain, because Cringe is like a acute psychological pain. The RACC, so yes, they were like investigating the role, how is important for both pain perception and pain regulation. And so it was, wait a second, let me read what this is. I'm all over the place. Da, 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 da. Okay, the rostral anterior cingulate cortex. That is the RACC. That is like hard for me to say. Yes. Da da da. So the RACC was selected for a target investigation. Its role, particularly important for both pain perception and pain regulation. The RACC activation is also associated with a broad variety of cognitive processes, including attention, emotion, executive function, task difficulty, and motor control. The fact that learned control over RACC activation was associated with pain modulation supports a role of RACC and its allied neural systems in pain control, not just cognitive. A sequel to pain such as attention, arousal, and orienting. Multiple brain regions comprising a pain matrix are involved in pain processing, including ACC, primary SI, and secondary SI, somatosensory cortices, insula, and thalamus. Anywho, yes, attention and distraction modulate activation ACC as well as other pain-related regions. Pain anticipation also affects pain modulation systems, including ACC, medial, orbital, frontal cortex, amygdala, and periaqueductal gray. Now you're like, holy fuck, what was that? That was just a buildup for hypnotic suggestion. Studies have shown a specific role for ACC in pain unpleasantness, whereas the manipulation of pain intensity produces changes primarily in the SI cortex. So yeah, they're basically saying like hypnotism, it helps like dull pain. And the thing is that means hypnotic suggestion is basically hypnotic susceptibility is refers to the degree to which an individual can respond to hypnotic suggestions, and it's measured by different scales. And there's people with like low hypnotizability. Moderate levels of hypnotizability are important for clinical efficacy, although the levels of hypnotic responsiveness does not ensure therapeutic success. But they have the Telegan scale of absorption correlates with hypnotic responsiveness. Absorption refers to a process of concentration and narrowing of attention. Clinical observations of absorption, example in competitive sports and other forms of performance, may be a clue to a patient's hypnotizability. Frankel and Orn found that hypnotizability was generally greater among patients with monosymptomatic phobias. Patients with post-traumatic stress disorder and dissociative states generally have higher levels of hypnotizability. So why I was mentioning that is that it's not, I mean, cringe is a type of pain. And I imagine if you feel cringe all the time, there may be some trauma in the past. But I was kind of weirdly like kind of fusing why you get, kind of immersed, absorbed by wearing a strap. And that will be like a later episode. But I'm not saying that everyone who wears a strap has monosymptomatic phobias, PTSD, or dissociative states. But I'm saying like it would make sense for people to be highly suggestible, and because that's embodied suggestion. If you're dissociating or if you're out of body, right, you're going to thoughts are disconnected from feelings, right, or so you're going to be more open to suggestion, and you're going to, you know what I mean? It's kind of like hypnosis is embodied suggestion, and so you have to be a bit removed from self to, you know, take on those actions and behaviors. Now, is that to say that, okay, I'm not saying anyone who wears a strap is dealing with PTSD or anything dissociative or monosymptomatic phobias. I just thought it was interesting that every time I kept reading about various types of pain, from cringe to whatever, hypnotic susceptibility was coming up. This also doesn't help that I do have a magician friend now. Now, you guys are like, this is so discombobulated. I know, but I just wanted to come in and talk because I thought this was really interesting. Oh, yeah, I am also reading this last book on consciousness. Consciousness is kind of like, I get it now. I mean, I've been getting it, but I also got W.E.B. Du Bois' book on the soul of Black folk, and I'm super, super excited to read it because it's about double consciousness, and I have like just a million theories brewing about intuition and intuitive flow, and it is so like I believe that rap is immediately connected to it, because rap is poetry, right? And poetry is emotion distilled, and the Black population has been incredibly suppressed in terms of, you know, personal expression, in terms of like growth, in terms of like economic, you know, like status, right? And so you when you have this intuitive, like, so suppression, right? And so it enters the realm of intuition, because intuition, in a lot of studies, they say it can't be rationally explained. And the thing is why I think it can't be rationally explained is because there's empathy and disgust happening simultaneously. And so the thing is you develop intuition when you're talking to like other people, right? However, there's interspecies predator versus prey, right? And so women's intuition, or Black people specifically, you know, double consciousness and intuitive flow, right? If you're talking to people who, you know, see you as like a piece of meat or something to be used and disposed of, right? You're going to, intuition cannot be developed with appetitive emotions, which is anything desire, lustful craving, like something looking at you like you're a piece of meat. People who have that mentality can't develop intuition, right? And so if you're on the receiving end of that, you're going to have some empathy because they are a human being. However, you're going to be disgusted by how they're looking at you. It's going to repel you away. They're looking at you like you're a piece of meat. And again, disgust, visceral disgust, this gut feeling of intuition, right? This is a poison that you are rejecting. They're looking at you in a poisonous manner. However, they still simultaneously are human being, right? So it's going to be a strange gut feeling. Now, why it can't be rationally explained is because most morals are rooted in empathy and disgust, okay? So if you're experiencing empathy and disgust at the same time, you're going to enter the gray area of morals. It's kind of like a fogginess. And so, you know, you're still taking in the fear of this, right? And it's poison. So you're going to have this like gut feeling, and you're going to, since it can't be rationally explained according to scientists, you're going to suppress it, right? And anytime a woman talks about, oh, I have a bad feeling about them, or anytime a person of color talks about, I have a bad feeling about them, right? It's like, well, explain it. It was like, I can't, because you would have to be like, you know, so it's you know, you feel like you're completely disregarded, you're not believed. And so what this has to do with intuition, and why I want to get into double consciousness is and like why rap specifically is so cool. And because code switching, right? And like intuitive flow, that is both a method of expression and a method of self-preservation. It's two things simultaneously that you're like switching between. And so when I'm reading, you know, this book, The Souls of Black Folk, he's going to talk about double consciousness, and so how you can switch between, and that is just incredibly cool. And no, I mean, it's the what caused this is awful, yes, but it's just how you can see, people express themselves, like, and how culture develops, and like intuition, and just like individualistic versus collectivist emotions. There's also hybrid emotions. I am obsessed with talking about emotions. But yeah, that's what I was going to wind down with. I will get into next time about why you can feel the strap. But I was having a shower thought, a lot of shower thoughts at once. I was also talking about how if you're going to be researching consciousness or awareness, usually the term soul will be used. That's usually going to refer to consciousness and things that are mainly involving the head. And if you see anything with spirit, it's mainly going to refer to awareness and body. However, it's not constrained just to body or just to head. And so what's interesting is I was also like researching, there's like hybrid emotion types. And so, individualistic cultures usually focus on consciousness, like what's happening on head. And then, collectivist cultures usually focus on awareness, like body. But then there's like hybrid emotion types where, it's both like soul and spirit, consciousness and awareness, two things existing at once. And what's cool is that the cultures who exhibit, hybrid emotions are cultures that are indigenous, right? They have like the indigenous cultures or highly nomadic cultures, which is interesting because you're like, oh, these two cultures, one of them has been in this place forever, right? And then the other one is constantly in motion, right? How come they are both showing that they're using hybrid, like individualistic and collectivist, like a hybrid of both? Like, shouldn't it be opposite? It's like, no, this is what they're showing you is that boundaries between, brain and head, between self and other, between self and land, these arbitrary boundaries, they're, made up, right? They are two things simultaneously. And it is so, so cool just to see like so many different emotion types. And what I'm going to start with that is I'm going to research Aboriginal Australian, the people who are in Australia, they're Aboriginals. They have the largest continuous culture in the entire world. And they have, without a doubt, one of the most cool, like the coolest emotion types. And they have aerial perspective, which is, so I talk about like individualistic, right? You think of, yourself, and then that kind of everything is like kind of circles around self. And then collectivist, it's like where you share simultaneously. And then you have third person perspective, which can vary depending on which angle you're approaching, looking at things from, but it's more of a detached state, right? It's not totally dissociated or but it's, objective, an objective way to observe, detached objectiveness towards yourself. With aerial perspective, you view from the top down, right? But you see the encompassing. You're at the top of the pyramid, but you're not above other people. You're like, it's just such an interesting way to look. And it's like you're, again, sorry. There's just so much coolness to this because I also read the book on consciousness that I'm reading right now. They were like, is consciousness a fourth state of matter? Well, memory is a topographical state of matter, and consciousness utilizes a whole bunch of different memory systems, from like semantic to episodic, and all this stuff. So yeah, kind of. But the thing is consciousness is the point. Awareness is the area around the point. And they said like, oh, there's like, there seems to be potential for an application of like fundamental physics. And I was like, yeah, there is. Because the thing is like, I think consciousness is like a deformations in space-time, and then awareness is space-time. And so, yeah, you really shouldn't separate consciousness from awareness. But there's a whole bunch of books. So I could, if you guys want to know more about that, Sorry, I'm just rambling now. It's just I love emotions and I love studying them. I really just want to get out of just single consciousness. I want to get into the realm of double consciousness, please. Oh, and then this is also interesting. My theory for intuition is that so there's interestingly, you know what? I'll get into it. Anyway, it wraps in savants. And what's interesting is that like women's intuition is a suppression of emotion, right? A gut feeling. And then you'll notice that but intuition is like, very heightened pattern recognition. And so savants have a very, very heightened sense of pattern recognition. And the thing is most savants are autistic men. And so it's like, why are most savants autistic men? Because you got to think about the direction that the emotion is moving. So women and people of color, right, taught to suppress their feelings. Or people of color, specifically Black people, taught to code switch, right? So they're double consciousness, they're switching between code. Women are suppressing it down. Now, savants, autistic men, autistic people don't usually abide by a lot of social norms, right? And so these men are allowed to express themselves with a heightened sense of pattern, like a heightened pattern recognition. And so they're expressing as opposed to suppressing or switching between. So I would love to study that more. Intuition, I could make a case for it being an emotion. Yes. But the thing is what would I feel like be the hang up in the scientific community is that it's a emotion that a lot of cis heterosexual white men will not experience because they are the people looking at people with appetitive emotions, other people to consume, use, and dispose as a resource. So, of course, you cannot develop intuition with those emotions present. So, they're kind of going to skew. They're going to be like, no, this doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because you're the predator, right? And it's a prey emotion. So you're, of course. Anyway, that's just my extra theory. This has been Shower Thoughts. Don't be afraid to be cringe, embarrassment. If don't laugh at yourself. It's because it's not you laughing. It's probably your parents or society. And if you want to get away from that, break out of that social norm, you're going to have to I know it feels uncomfortable and it feels weird to like be cringe at first, but you're going to get better at it. It's a skill, like not being cringe, but you're going to, since it's dependent on being awkward, and awkward is like lack of refined movement or like fluency. If you practice, expressing yourself and you're very intentional with it and, you repeat it, and you're purposefully crafting it, then it will get more fine-tuned and more true to who you feel like you actually are. And then when someone challenges it, you're gonna be like, you're just gonna feel bad for them. You're gonna be like, that's so cringe, right? That's so cringe that you're just like everyone else. That's a violation of my social norm and my friend group. We're highly expressive people and we believe in expressing ourselves and being true individuals. And you are just so dedicated to confining yourself and abiding by the status quo. So our group does actually find that quite cringe. So yeah, I will talk next time about why you can feel the strap. I will let you guys know about if I felt the strap. Ooh, I will let you know if I felt the strap. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you guys next week. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, and make sure to rate me 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, any place you get your podcasts, and follow me on Substack. I'm starting to write again, and yeah, everything will be linked below. Thank you so much for listening. I know that this was all over the place. Hopefully the message was received, and all resources, of course, will be linked. Have a great week, guys. Bye.